The objective of our research is to reflect and analyse the values of local citizens across the three pillars of sustainability: social, environmental and economic. In doing so, we hope to cover how two European capitals are navigating the challenges of aligning urban development with the priorities of the people who live within it. Our research incorporates ArcGIS surveys, data analysis, desk research and 2 case studies to effectively gather and evaluate data. Around us, many older buildings sit unused or neglected, yet each holds potential for renewal. Our projects explored the idea of reuse architecture. Our aim is to understand how reimagining infrastructure can help build cities that are more sustainable, resilient, and ready for the future.
Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, stands as a living model of sustainability. The city doesn't just talk about change, it embodies it through circular architecture that connects people, place, and history. From a social sustainability perspective, our Survey 123 research shows that 76% of residents are aware of reused architecture, and 64.7% say energy-efficient homes matter when choosing where to live. Even more striking, 100% of respondents said they would consider living in a repurposed home over a newly built one, and 85% would pay 5 to 10% more for a sustainable home. These numbers reveal that Copenhageners value heritage, community, and environmental responsibility, reflecting the city's cultural belief in preserving the past while innovating for the future. From an economic sustainability perspective, the Gemini silo apartments are a perfect example. Originally built as soybean silos in 1963 and employing over 2,500 workers, they were repurposed between 2002 to 2005 instead of being demolished. By reusing the concrete shells, developers reduced construction costs while preserving industrial heritage. The latest Danish building code, through the Nordic Sustainable Construction Programme initiated by the Nordic Ministers of Construction and Housing, requires life cycle assessments for new buildings and has begun treating reused construction products differently in LCA, contributing to the Nordic Vision 2030. For environmental sustainability, the project has significant benefits. Apartments wrap around the exterior, offering waterfront views, 30% balcony space, and natural lighting through transparent roofs, reducing energy use. However, it is not perfect. The silos are concrete, which has high environmental footprint and limits the green potential. Together, these aspects show how the Gemini silos reflect Copenhagen's culture of resourcefulness, innovation, and community-minded living, blending social, economic, and environmental priorities. They prove that old walls can create new ways, where heritage, sustainability, and citizen values thrive together, even if there is room to improve.
Dublin, the capital of Ireland.
Dublin faces a challenge. Policy is heading in one direction, but people's needs are pulling in another. Around Ireland, there's growing environmental pressure. We're seeing more flooding, insufficient energy use, and infrastructure that can't keep up. Socially, urban sprawl is stretching communities thin, and economically, we're missing out on the opportunities that green investments could bring. But Dublin is starting to adapt by improving its stormwater systems, supporting greener legislation, and promoting more compact development. The Dublin City Development Plan from 2022 to 2028 supports the reuse of older buildings. Policy 11, for example, opposes the demolition of protected structures. However, this remains non-mandatory for developers. One project that brings out greener Dublin is the Gasworks in Grand Canal Docks. It's powered by its own solar panel system and backed by 100% renewable energy providers. It features electric vehicle charging stations, secure bike parking, green roofs, and rainwater filtration systems, making it a model for sustainable integrated design. And it's working. The building emits 40% less carbon annually than a standard apartment block. Its green roofs reduce surrounding areas' urban heat by 3 degrees Celsius, and water-saving systems cut usage by 30% per household. Economically, residents benefit from the energy bills that are around 25% lower than similar properties without green infrastructure. Meanwhile, the city avoids the financial and environmental costs of demolition and new construction. Projects like the Gasworks prove that smart reuse can both drive environmental, social, and economic value, and the public agrees. In our survey, 82% of Dubliners said that they would live in the Gasworks even knowing its industrial past. But why would they live in a potentially hazardous build? For Dubliners, it's because the Gasworks' closeness to recreational activities. It's located on the harbour and includes shared green spaces and is within walking distance of central Dublin. And 60% said that they would pay slightly more to live in a sustainable home like this one. But these values still aren't shaping the majority of new developments. There's a disconnect between what the people want and what's being delivered.
Comparing Copenhagen and Dublin reveals two cities striving toward the same sustainability goals, yet each is writing a different chapter in the same story. The Gemini residence in Copenhagen is a remarkable example of adaptive reuse.
However, because the original silos were built in 1963,
The skeleton of the building was made of heavy traditional concrete, a material with a high carbon footprint. Because of this, it doesn't fully qualify as green infrastructure. In contrast, the gasworks building in Dublin goes further in this regard. It not only preserves industrial heritage, but also incorporates sustainable materials and efficient energy systems. This makes it a stronger example of green infrastructure. Secondly, when comparing policy, Copenhagen takes a much stricter and more proactive approach to reuse. Danish and city-level regulations require material audits and prioritise adapting existing buildings before any demolition, embedding circularity into planning. Dublin, by contrast, supports reuse in principle, but with weaker enforcement and fewer mandatory measures. It's more advisory than binding. So while the gasworks is a great example of adaptive reuse, Copenhagen's overall policy frameworks make circular architecture a far more consistent and enforceable priority. Lastly, Copenhagen demonstrates a mature integration of reused architecture from a population that is generally more willing to embrace sustainable living. Though the gaswork project is promising, it is dependent on private investment and evolving regulation. Copenhagen's progress reflects the Nordic model, where strong social trust drives collective environmental action. In Dublin, our surveys showed that while many citizens wanted to live in the gasworks, hypothetically, their motivations were mostly social rather than sustainable. Building that same culture of shared responsibility will be essential if Dublin is to match Copenhagen's integrated approach to sustainability.
To meet Dublin's housing and climate goals, we must align development with community values, ensuring affordability, inclusivity, and access to shared public spaces.
Over 70% of Dublin residents rank these as top priorities in recent urban satisfaction surveys.
On climate, the built environment accounts for over 35% of Ireland's carbon emissions. Prioritising material reuse, energy efficiency, and low-carbon construction is not optional. It's essential to meeting both national targets and citizen expectations. Finally, to scale adaptive reuse of buildings, we recommended targeted tax credits or subsidies for developers who pursue sustainable conversions.
To conclude, Copenhagen and Dublin show how reuse architecture can transform cities, preserving existing spaces while creating sustainable, vibrant communities. While Copenhagen leads in policy and citizen engagement, Dublin is beginning to embrace these practices with projects like gasworks. By reimagining old buildings, both cities demonstrate a path towards greener, more inclusive urban living.